Disney is a massive corporation. We're not talking about just Disney. We're talking about Disney. We're talking about ABC. I mean, these are major conglomerates that have yield a lot of power in this country. So to parents that might be watching this wondering, what do I do? I mean, I immediately unsubscribed from Disney Plus. I texted my husband. I was like, get off of Disney Plus. We will never, ever, ever go to Disney World. But I mean, those are the small steps we can do in one household. What else can parents do?
I think there's really two steps to turn this into sustainable activism that might have a chance at influencing the company. Obviously, you're completely right. First off, boycott Disney, cancel your subscription to Disney Plus, send a communications to the Disney PR team and the executives, letting them know exactly what you think as a former customer. But I also think that the solution to these media conglomerates that are trying to really engineer the narratives, and in this case, engineer kind of the narratives around children and sexuality, there's a very simple recipe. We have democratic power that is superior to corporate power. That's how our country works. That's how it's always worked. And so I think what we're seeing with Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida is that he's channeling maybe the spirit of Teddy Roosevelt. He's willing to go to bat and fight these big corporations. He's willing to go toe-to-toe with them. He's dominating the PR battle. He has between 70 and 80% of the public supporting the very simple language in that children's parents' Bill of Rights. And so you have to then elect people and support elected officials and politicians through the democratic system who are willing to go after these companies. And in Disney's case, there are a number of very clear solutions. Disney has a massively unfair corporate tax subsidy in the state of Florida. Disney has, I think, unfairly pressured Congress to infinitely extend its copyright protections that expire next year. Florida legislators should take a hard look at removing special privileges economically from Disney. And federal legislators, I think, are absolutely going to stop a kind of nonsensical extension of Disney's intellectual property next year that will deal billions of dollars of damage by putting characters like Mickey Mouse into the public domain.
If you've been following along on my Instagram, you know that dinner time is special for me and my family. I love to cook and prepare delicious meals. It is therapeutic for me. That being said, I'm busy, so anything that makes it easier for me to sit down with my husband and my little one and enjoy our meal is priceless. I love Good Ranchers. They source and sell meat that's 100% born, raised, and harvested in the USA. It's locally sourced, shipped straight to your door, and it's completely affordable. I don't know about you, but I am not a fan of store-bought meat that's imported from overseas and only stays in business by lying about its origins or creating made-up labels like cruelty-free to ease your conscience. So head on over to goodranchers.com/Owens or use my code Owens at checkout to get $30 off your order. Good Ranchers makes gathering around the table easy once again. Get your box of American meat delivered at goodranchers.com/Owens today. I like to think that in looking at this, what we are actually seeing is a radical minority that has a lot of power and is very loud. What is the advice that you give when these employees come to you? Because this extends beyond Disney, right? You've got teachers that are going, hey, man, you're asking me to now be a predator. I don't want to teach this material to children. This is not my job. I'm just an educator. I'm not a parent. And yet, because of these minor voices that are so radical and so loud, they don't feel comfortable coming forward. And so they stay in the inboxes of you and me and say, hey, this is some information that I want to pass to you. What can they do? Because they're actually behind the lines and they're seeing this stuff take place other than leaking information.
They're in a very difficult position. I've done dozens of these stories on critical race theory in companies and government agencies and public schools. And in virtually every case, people have asked to remain anonymous. But I think we have a responsibility as members of the media, as members of this political community, to fight on their behalf, even if they're remaining silent. And eventually, I hope we can create enough space so that these sane employees at companies, at K through 12 schools, within government agencies, can be given the latitude for them to push back within those institutions. And I think what it will really take ultimately is legislation that protects employees, legislation that creates guidelines in K through 12 public schools, and that also gives these people levers of power to enforce norms, to change the institutions from within. So this is a public policy problem. We need to start getting busy on solving it so we can empower these sane employees that represent the large majority who are unfortunately being bullied into silence and conformity.
You know, I'm a big believer that America has unwittingly grown soft on pedophilia. There's a lot of predators that are roaming around. We see this. We just spoke about this on our panel about, Ketanji Brown talking about her leniency, towards these certain criminals. And you've certainly done a lot of covering over the years. Parents may have not been paying attention, but Disney also has a predator problem. And I know that we have some screenshots of just a few of those headlines. Can you just speak to us here? We got ex-Disney cruise officer. I was ordered not to report molestation. I mean, that's huge. Disney employees, another headline. Disney employees registered nurse among those arrested in undercover operation targeting child predators. Another insane headline. Trial looms for Disney Cruise Line employee accused of fondling boy aboard a ship. It's funny that I'm reading these headlines. Disney workers among 16 arrested for possession of child porn. Polk County Sheriff says. It goes on and on and on and on. I have said often that when I walk through Times Square and I see these people dressed up as Pooh Bear asking for money, what a perfect job, if you are a pervert, to blend in and have nobody say anything, to be surrounded by children and pretending that you're their favorite animal. You've sort of covered this extensively. Can you just speak to us about this problem?
Yeah, that's right. This is a problem that unfortunately is widespread. And in 2014, CNN, of all places, did a 6-month investigative report that discovered dozens upon dozens of Disney employees arrested for child sex crimes. CNN said that it was a crisis. It was a scandal. They recommended legislation to try to allow companies like Disney to take greater methods of restricting or weeding out employees who could be child predators. And so this is a pattern. Unfortunately, every year over the past decade, more and more Disney employees are arrested for these child sex crimes. And I think it's relevant because of this. I think it's relevant because Disney is presenting itself as a moral voice on children and sexuality. But meanwhile, in its own record, it has this really horrific pattern that doesn't seem to be abating. They haven't done enough to stop it. And so when they enter politics on those terms, they will be scrutinized in politics on those terms. And so this is a problem. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not QAnon. That's what the left is saying now. If you just look at the history of CNN, they've reported on this problem for years. And now they're trying to avoid it or cover it up because it's politically inconvenient. But if your interest is protecting kids from any institution, unfortunately from the Catholic Church, from the public school system, from children's theme parks, we have to do more. It's a significant problem. The data from the Department of Education, for example, suggests that millions of kids are sexually abused. It's an absolutely horrific scandal. We need to do more.
You are so correct in that, and I couldn't be more firm on that. I always say to parents, this is the hill to die on. You're talking about your children, and I do believe, honestly, that in this country, we are facing a pandemic of pedophilia that nobody wants to talk about. Thanks for joining me on this segment of Candace. If you like this video, subscribe to this YouTube channel and ring the bell to get notifications on new videos. To watch, listen to the full show, become a member at dailywire.com/subscribe.